Cheap Bastard Therapy.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of Cheap Bastard Therapy with me, Francis Peck. This is actually just the second episode of this series. It's a series in which I not only explore why I started the business, but also help you out in case you have need of that, of the steps you need to take to start up a business in general and specifically in Europe, Belgium. So this second episode is really on the core of being a cheap bastard. Money. You want to make money. It might be with other things. Oh, in my case, it's turning this black gold into money. This is a very tasty Colombian that actually from this weekend will again be available in the Dumont chocolate shop in the very center of Bruges near the market. So go there when you're in Bruges and you can buy my coffee, these kind of bags of 212 coffees. So that's for the small advertisement section. So it's all about, you want to do a business. I wanted to do a business because I am a cheap bastard. I'm just genetically built like that. That's why this starting a business is a therapy for me. Not to be a cheap bastard in a bad way, but I'm going for quality product, also respecting the farmers that are doing the actual hard work. Not that roasting and standing here to value their product is not hard work for me as well, definitely. But I'm not taking the biggest chunk of money actually. Actually, my business is not going that ideal because I started. This is the important thing. When you start a business, what are you going to invest, right? You will need to invest. So I decided 10,000 euros. That's my investment. So second thing is put that in a secure place. Don't put it under your mattress, of course. Also, because you want to be fully transparent. We're living in a day and age, even if you would not want to do it from a moral perspective, you have to do it from a practical perspective because with AI and all the tools, governments, they will just know now when you're actually working in the black circuit. So there's no point in doing that. So next to having that initial idea of an investment, in my case 10,000 euros, the second actual first thing to do is get a bank account. A separate bank account for what is going to be your business, even before you get your business number, which is, learn from my mistakes. I did it the other way around. Now the advantage of getting that bank account is you need to make some costs even before you officially start your business. And you won't be able to recuperate the VAT on some of those things you're buying before you have an actual established business. Some things you have to pay the VAT or whatever anyways before you start a business. You cannot recuperate some of the costs. So that's not really an issue. But of course you should only, setting up the bank account first. Well, the advantage is some of the banks, they offer you advantages when you want to start out a business, and one of the advantages is you might get discounts on the process of formally, legally starting up your business. One of those things is, for example, your VAT number registration might be included. Now, you don't necessarily need to do that because you can just do that for free yourself by handling that extra piece of administration. That's actually what I did because I first got my business number and I then went to seek out a bank account. But so you don't need to do that. You can start with that bank account, and it does make more sense because you get your investments already on there, the money that you put there that you think, I need to be able to make it with that. So in my case, that was 10,000 euros. Now it's now a good year and a half, and I went to around 3,000 euros. So that just illustrates how cheaply I'm selling my coffee. That's one. Now, of course, I made some maybe not ideal business decisions already in this time. Well, one is I'm shooting this with this camera that's very flexible, allows me to take videos in several places, which is important for my business, that I can make videos, get that content out there. So that was, 850 euros around that. Then of course you, you know, I'm working with food. You know, if you do a non-food related business, things might be easier. But working with food, I needed to get this ready. I learned this also as I was going along, and this will be part of another episode: how to make your business food safe, let's say. But I didn't then end up having to buy these stainless steel tables, and then also very important, my washing station, which I need, you know, in a close vicinity to where I'm handling food, and that does include roasting coffee. Although of course roasting coffee at a high temperature means in theory it's, you know, you won't get botulism and things like this from an activity like mine, which is the biggest reason for having food safety institutes in your countries. So all those things, by having a bank account, you're already tracking those costs, and of course you only want to accept legit money. You need things to handle that as well. What I've learned over the course of time, like today, this morning when I was roasting, I sold 2 coffees. Currently I'm asking €2 for an espresso. You know, people still handle cash. I don't understand why, but I'm legally obliged to accept cash money as well. When you have a business kind of a shop, you can sell all sorts of things. You might not have to write an invoice for every sale, right? So those copies, I didn't need to make an invoice, and I got cash money for it. I prefer when they actually use, you know, want to pay with a card, because this makes it, you know, I have this little sum up system, makes it very easy. I just get a payment registration, and I can use that to say that's my daily earnings, and that's what I have to report and pay the VAT on as well, of course. So what I do when I get cash, I actually transcribe it from my personal account to my business account, which is also something they actually don't advise you to do, but you need a diary of this kind of daily revenue that's not in invoices. And for me it's very clear, if I immediately write it from my personal account to the business account, it's already locked, right? So you need a system that you're not able to tamper with, and you're not able to tamper with bank accounts. That's the whole point. I mean, if your bank allows you to tamper with it, then there's a serious problem. The whole system would fall to pieces. So that's a very important reason to start out just by having a bank account. Think about your strategy. How will you handle outgoing money? That's why the bank account is useful as well. You put your initial investment there, and then you track and you see, unfortunately in my case, how it's going down, but at some point that trend should go upwards. Actually, it's a nice analogy with coffee roasting. When you insert your beans in the roasting machine, the temperature in the beginning, it drops, which isn't because of the coffee beans. The temperature of the beans is actually rising from the start, but the machine gets a temperature, and you're measuring the machine temperature, and that's dropping because the beans are actually cooling the machine, in a way you could say. And at a certain point that starts going up again, and you know, you're starting to have that delicious coffee that you're roasting, and then you decide, you know, when do I reach the desired level. In the case of roasting, the roasting level, of course, in the case of money, well, there is such a point as that's enough money, because you know, you can only put in that much work. So think about what's your aim. That's, for me, that's still not clear as well. My aim, my aim was clear. I knew it was going to go down, and I hoped at some point to reach back again this level of 10,000, which seems miles away at this point. Now I still have a lot of coffee in stock. That's also a reason, you know, coffee, buying the green beans, being able to have a selection of them available. That's also like already 2,000 euros. So then, you know, if you're able to turn that to 4,000 euros, I would still not be back at my 10,000. So my whole strategy, my pricing strategy, my ability to sell coffee at this point is not working sufficiently. This first episode is not how to do that successfully. I hope to be able to do that at some point. I have another sub-series on how I'm not a success in doing these kind of things, so you can also check out that episode and learn from my mistakes there. But on this, I'm certain. Start out with having a bank account. In Belgium, your options are KBC, ING, Belfius. There's a whole, and you can go for European bank, but you should have a banking account in the country where you're mainly going to sell. I mean, any other thing doesn't really make too much sense to me personally. I guess in Europe you could have any European country because the European market is one market. But if you're a resident in a certain country, it still makes most sense that your bank is actually, at least you have one number in that country where you're tracking your sales and your positions in that country. So if you're starting out a business, start with having that bank account. Go to the different banks, talk to them. How much is it going to cost? I just took a debit cards with my main bank, and then I have the SumUp, which is giving me free credit cards. So here, of course, when I accept payments through this system, I have to pay them like 1.6%, something like that. Not sure of the exact number. With my bank, I am able to make QR codes to receive payments as well, and that's not costing me anything, so that's kind of convenient. But of course, I have a subscription for that account. I think it costs me around 30 euros a year. So actually, you should be absolutely sure how much everything is costing. With the bank account, it kind of got complicated because of course I have my personal account there as well, and then I started having these invoices from the bank, and I didn't really get for what they were from my business, because those kind of costs you can recuperate the tax from, because you need the account for your business, because you can simply not save your money under a mattress. That's not only not safe, so that's not good for you, it's not good for the state, because they're not able to track what you're really doing. And having a business, that's why it's cheap bastard therapy. It's to make myself better, but starting a business, creating economic activity is good for the society around you as well, not just because you're creating, in my case, an extra spot where they can drink excellent coffee. So, if you're up for a coffee, come here, we can discuss coffee, business, things like this. My experiences, I just share everything. Thanks for following this episode. I hope it was useful for you in case you're on this journey to become an entrepreneur, a business owner. If you're not, or if you're already a business owner, if you have tips, mistakes, I'm sharing here because it's just based on my personal experience. Happy to hear about them in the comments. So thanks for following this episode, and hope to see you next time.